In 2014, a hiker made a startling discovery of human remains within a wooded area near Newport, Washington, off Highway 2. The findings occurred on December 2nd, close to a railroad track often traversed by individuals experiencing homelessness. The victim, a man presumed to be homeless, drew the attention of the Ponder County Sheriff's Office. Among the belongings discovered at the scene were a solitary black boot, a size 13, branded as Brahma, a navy and red striped stocking cap, pants with a 48-inch waist and 30-inch inseam, a XXL size plaid button-up shirt with the brand Faded Glory, and a red fleece-style zippered hooded jacket. A pair of gold-rimmed eyeglasses was also located. Responding to the situation, the Ponder County Sheriff's Office undertook efforts to identify the individual, canvassing local homeless shelters. An autopsy conducted by the Kings County Medical Examiner's Office determined that the remains belonged to a white middle-aged man, likely afflicted with arthritis or a significant degenerative disease. Dental information was submitted to various databases, including the Washington State Patrol's Missing and Unidentified Persons Unit and the FBI National Crime Information Center, but no matches were found. In 2015, a DNA profile extracted from the remains was sent to the FBI's combined DNA index system, yet no match was established. The case was subsequently added to the National Missing and Identified Person System. Law enforcement continued their efforts to rule out missing persons, and in December 2016, forensic artist Natalie Murray created a facial reconstruction based on measurements and photographs. This artistic representation was not intended as a photograph, but aimed to provide a visual likeness to aid identification. In February 2017, Carr Copeland conducted another facial reconstruction on behalf of the Ponder County Coroner's Office. By 2022, an advanced DNA profile was sent to a genealogy service, and the Spokane County Medical Examiner's Office identified a potential relative through a DNA reference test. The remains were officially identified as Randall Reed Proris on July 28, 2023, by the Ponder County Coroner. Randall's family had last heard from him in 2003, but authorities discovered he was last seen in 2008 in Old Town, Idaho. Born in Sioux City, Iowa, Randall enjoyed reading, though unfortunately little else is known about his life. On June 21, 2021, a groundskeeper, while clearing ground cover, stumbled upon a human body near a trail on the southeast side of Metzen Lake in Golden Gate Park, San Francisco, California. The individual, a white male, lay on a blanket and sleeping bag, surrounded by trash and miscellaneous items. He was dressed in a tank top, dark jeans, underwear and leggings, with a small, partial can of chewing tobacco found in his rear pants pocket. The San Francisco Chief Medical Examiner, during the autopsy, estimated the man to be around 45 years old, noting no evidence of trauma on the body. Based on the body's condition, authorities estimated that the man had passed away 2 weeks before his discovery. As detectives faced challenges in identifying the man, who became known as the Metzen Lake John Doe, and with the case seemingly going cold, they sought assistance from the DNA Doe Project. This non-profit investigative genealogy research organisation, known for aiding law enforcement agencies and medical examiners across North America, took on the case. The breakthrough came swiftly as the team discovered a crucial clue: a match in the range of a first cousin on the maternal side. Leveraging this information, the team identified the specific branch of the John Doe's family tree, determining that he was one of 6 children, with only 2 male siblings. A proof of life study ruled out one of the brothers. Consequently, in March 2023, the John Doe was positively identified as Kurt Jerome Ayen. Team leader Rhonda Kevorkian highlighted the unusual aspects of this case in 2 significant ways. First, the agency promptly enlisted the assistance of the DNA Doe Project shortly after discovering John Doe's remains. Second, the DNA match derived from a close relative, enabling the swift and confident identification of Mr. Ayen. Following the identification, individuals stepped forward to illuminate Kurt's life. He lived as a homeless man in Golden Gate Park, typical of many experiencing homelessness. Kurt disconnected from his family, lacked identification, and no one claimed his remains. Local residents recognised him as a source of concern. Reports surfaced, indicating that Kurt, once friendly, developed a particular aversion to dogs. He was known to verbally and physically assault people, especially women walking dogs in the area. Raina, a dog walker in the park, recounted, "He escalated to charging us on the trails and kicking the dogs." She even captured video evidence of him emerging from bushes armed and making threats, with an additional incident where he threw a rock through her van window, shattering it and endangering the animals with glass. In 2019, he was allegedly arrested for throwing coffee on a woman, her dog, and hair stroller. Raina expressed, "I am one of about a dozen women with dogs that he has attacked over the years. I was not a fan of the man." In July 1980, authorities discovered the remains of an unidentified man in a wooden crate in the Chicago Greater Area Sanitary and Shipping Canal. The crate containing the body had been extracted using heavy equipment along with other debris from a grate designed to prevent objects from entering the power plant. During the removal and disposal process by power plant employees, the crate broke open. A couple of days later, an employee searching for driftwood stumbled upon the body, but advanced decomposition made identification challenging. Upon autopsy, investigators found evidence that the unknown man had been deliberately taken from this world. He had sustained a shotgun wound to the abdomen and multiple gunshot wounds from a handgun. It was deduced that the man had likely lost his life several days before the discovery of his body. Investigators approximated that the unidentified white male was between 25 and 35 years old at the time of his demise. They estimated his height at 5'11" and weight at around 175 lbs. The man had light brown to blonde hair, approximately 2 inches in length when discovered. He was dressed in dark blue work pants marked with Guy 5, a green pullover t-shirt with a pocket, wool socks, and a single dark-coloured herringbone house slipper. Although partial fingerprints were recovered from the body, attempts to match them with individuals in both state and federal databases were unsuccessful. Dental evidence was also obtained but did not correspond to any known missing persons. For more than 4 decades, law enforcement tirelessly pursued leads to uncover the identity of an unknown man. In November 2009, his case was entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System ANANized, and despite STAR testing, no match to anyone was found. Despite the exhaustive efforts of law enforcement, the man's identity remained elusive, and the case eventually went cold. In 2022, the Will County Coroner's Office, in collaboration with IAM, opted to utilise forensic genetic genealogy in an attempt to establish the man's identity or find a close relative. The Will County Coroner's Office committed substantial funding to the testing, with the remainder crowdfunded through DNA Solved's platform. Skeletal evidence was sent to AAM, resulting in the development of a suitable DNA extract. IRAM scientists employed forensic-grade genome sequencing to construct a comprehensive DNA profile, and AAM's in-house genetic genealogy research team utilised this profile to generate investigative leads. These leads were then provided to law enforcement. A subsequent investigation, along with confirmation DNA testing of a family member, conclusively identified the 1980 victim as Webster Pfizer, born on September 25, 1980. On March 22, 2023, the Will County Coroner's Office officially identified the remains as those of 29-year-old Webster from Chicago. Sergeant Mike Ernst acknowledged, obviously, there were numerous mob-related crimes during that era, and many of them extended into Will County. Is it a possibility we will explore? Yes, it is. However, I cannot say for certain at this point. Webster's wife recently informed investigators that her husband had left home in mid-July 1980 to buy cigarettes at a gas station approximately a block away, but never returned. Webster was eventually reported missing to the Chicago Police Department by concerned relatives. Joe Piper, a deputy coroner and cold case investigator at the Will County Coroner's Office, expressed, "This gentleman is somebody's father, somebody's uncle, somebody's brother, and it is gratifying to provide the family with some form of closure because they are searching and wondering whatever happened to their loved one." Those with information that could assist in this case are urged to contact the Will County Coroner's Office at 815-727-8455. In Granby, Massachusetts, on November 15, 1978, a group of kids playing off Amherst Street made a grim discovery: an unidentified woman's body buried under a pile of leaves. Investigators later determined that she had been fatally shot in the temple and that her body had been dragged using a man's belt. Her demise occurred approximately 3 months before the discovery, around August 1978. Sadly, despite efforts, investigators were unable to identify her, and she became known as Granby Girl, eventually laid to rest in a local cemetery with a headstone marked unknown. In a significant turn of events on March 6, 2023, the Northwest District Attorney's Office convened a news conference at the Granby Police Station to reveal a breakthrough in the case. It was disclosed that the remains found in 1978 belonged to 28-year-old Patricia Ann Tucker, born on July 28, 1950. First Assistant District Attorney Stephen G. explained that advances in DNA technology enabled them to locate Patricia's half-sister in Maryland, who subsequently led them to Patricia's son. At the time of her disappearance, he was just 5 years old. To Steve C.E. remarked, although it's satisfying to finally identify who Granby Girls was, our investigation won't cease until we pinpoint the individual responsible for taking her life, providing the family with an additional measure of closure and justice. This investigation, spanning decades, will persist until every possible lead is thoroughly explored. In 1978, Patricia, formerly known by the married names Patricia Heckman, Patricia Dale, and later Patricia Coleman, lived with her husband Gerald Coleman on the shore of Lake Pocotopo in East Hampton, Connecticut. Strangely, Coleman never reported his wife missing and passed away in a Massachusetts prison in 1996. Stephen G. now considers Coleman a person of interest in Patricia's case. For those with information about the case, please contact Granby Police at 404 67 9222 or email gwhite@granby. Patricia's son, Matthew Dale, now 50 years old, shared his recollections of his mother during a recent interview. The memories date back to 1978, when Patricia was seated in the front of a stranger's car, donning a vest. Matthew, positioned on plush upholstery in the back seat, was accompanied by a man he did not recognise behind the wheel. Despite the passage of time, Matthew vividly remembers his mother's last words before her disappearance, instructing him to go across the street to the playground. Adjacent to a juvenile group home, Patricia bid him farewell with a simple goodbye now. As Matthew reflects on his middle-aged years, his memories have become somewhat hazy. To the best of his recollection, the facility was located outside Boston. His father retrieved him the following day and assumed the role of his primary caregiver after Patricia's departure. Despite spending most of his life in North Carolina and establishing a happy family life, Matthew has been haunted by the unresolved mystery of his mother's disappearance. Within the family, rumours circulated, with some speculating that Patricia might have entered the federal witness protection program. It wasn't until Matthew reached his 30s that he came to terms with the likelihood that his mother was no longer alive. Dispelling myths surrounding her, he noted, "My mother fell in with the wrong crowd. She was not a hiker like some of the stories said through the years. I've been told so many lies about it." Following his father's passing in 2015, Matthew has grappled with a sense of aimlessness, despite being happily married, a father, and a long-time union electrician. Several weeks prior to the identification, the police arrived at his doorstep. They questioned him, revealing that they had located him through his uncle in a DNA database, mentioning Granby Girl. Puzzled, Matthew wondered, what is a Granby Girl? State police investigators, though sparing on details, indicated they had presumed Patricia's death, having previously submitted his DNA to a database in anticipation of his mother's potential identification. Matthew promptly forwarded investigators a file containing his digital DNA profile. Within hours, they contacted him by phone, confirming a clear genetic match. Matthew possesses only a few mementos of his mother: a solitary photo, baby book she crafted for him, a lock of his hair, and a small tapestry she painted during his childhood. He intends to organise a proper grave for his mother, which has long been marked only by a wooden cross. In 1998, Granby residents contributed funds to establish a more dignified marker, as recalled by Matthew. Reflecting on the tragic end, he expressed his desire to commission a new gravestone for her, stating, "She deserves to have her name on it." On March 17, 2005, while hiking the Lone Mountain Trail in Carson City, a passerby noticed a protruding shoe from the ground and promptly alerted authorities. Upon investigation, law enforcement discovered the buried remains of a woman wrapped in a sleeping bag. Preliminary estimates suggested that the woman had passed away approximately a year before her unearthing. Despite the standard identification procedures, investigators were unable to determine her identity, and she became a Jane Doe. In 2019, the Carson City Sheriff's Office turned to the DNA Doe Project to employ genetic genealogy in their efforts to unveil the identity of the Jane Doe. This involved utilising DNAs to construct her family tree, following a series of intricate laboratory processes to extract and translate DNA into a usable profile for comparison with millions of database records. Volunteer investigative genetic genealogists began their work. By May 2020, the DNA Doe Project reported that more than 13 volunteers had diligently collaborated to link matches with family trees, reaching back to ancestors born in the mid-1700s in England. The exhaustive effort took just under a year to narrow down the search to a single family in the expansive family tree. 3 out of the 6 siblings were women. Investigators were prompted to pursue this lead. In October 2022, a family member of Jane Doe's ancestry underwent a DNA test, and the results were uploaded to gedmatch.com, a public database accessible for law enforcement cases. Following this DNA match, investigators conclusively identified Jane Doe as Joyce A. Rogers Annie's originally from Michigan. Aside from furnishing this pivotal lead for identification, the DNA Doe Project team also supplied details about a man connected to Joyce who later admitted to burying her body on Lone Mountain. It emerged that 72-year-old Joyce had succumbed to natural causes, and her husband, Edward Barton, had interred her on the mountain. The couple, being homeless and financially strapped, lacked the means for a proper funeral. Regrettably, there exists no way to substantiate or refute Edward Barton's account of events, and the case is presently considered resolved. In 1979, a woman's body was discovered at Sugar Pine Point State Park campground on Lake Tahoe. She appeared badly beaten and bruised and appeared to have been strangled. In her early 30s, she had some jewellery on her body, she had some rings, a wristwatch, and a deer pendant. The 3 people who discovered her body did not immediately call the police. Instead, they called a local newspaper and snuck off. The reporter then informed law enforcement authorities. The police found that the 3 men had not called in their discovery. Because they had warrants out for their arrest, they were all cleared for this specific crime. An autopsy shockingly would reveal that the Jane Doe was likely alive when they discovered her. It appeared that she had been assaulted, so an evidence collection kit was conducted on her body. These kits have collection bags, microscopic slides, a comb, sterile containers, etc. to collect evidence. Hair, saliva, blood, and other bodily fluids are lifted off victims, with the help of these kits to prove assault and identify the perpetrator. She was found to have suffered severe blows to her body, and there were defensive wounds that indicated she fought back. There were multiple signs of struggle around the picnic area of the western shore of the lake, and the victim lost one of her flip-flops while trying to escape her assailant. Investigating officers recovered very little evidence, but unknowingly bagged one important item: an empty beer bottle they found near the body. Back in 1979, forensic technology was not as advanced as it is today. The evidence was filed away, and the body was stored in the morgue for a long time. Nobody came forward to claim the unknown woman, and so it was decided to bury her in an anonymous grave in a potter's field located in El Dorado County. Lake Tahoe has always been a popular tourist destination, and was so back then as well. The beaches and campsites always attract people from all over, and it was hard to trace this woman. She could be from anywhere. At the time, police did not recover a vehicle or any other belonging, so there was no way of knowing who she was and how she got there. Limited by technology, it was considered a cold case and was taken off priority. Years later, when DNA testing came out in 1986, the DNA lifted off the beer bottle and victim were analysed. It was clear the bottle belonged to the assailant, but there was no further progress until decades later. Almost 36 years later, investigating officer John Gaines took over this case in 2014. He reopened the Lake Tahoe Jane Doe files as part of El Dorado County's cold case unit, opening cases from the 1970s, 80s and 90s regarding the lake. In the Lake Tahoe Jane Doe case, he accompanied the body with a forensic anthropologist from California State University. Chico. He printed photos of her jewellery to be released to the public in an attempt to identify her. The pictures were published in local newspapers without many leads. Again noticed the necklace and realised the deer necklace was actually a chai pendant, which represents the Jewish symbol for life. He said it was the kind of pendant Elvis Presley used to wear on stage. With the chai pendant as a lead, Gaines tried his luck with the local Jewish community. Lake Tahoe's local rabbi, Rabbi Morty Rickler, who had opened a Chabad, was surprised to have officers contact him. A Chabad is considered a Jewish community centre, and one does not often come across police in these centres. It is a holy place of peace and sanctity. When they explained the case, Rabbi Rickler was happy to help and spread the word in the community. In 1979, when the body was discovered, the Jewish community was just settling in the Lake Tahoe area with very few families. Now, the area had 2 synagogues and over 1,000 Jewish members. In September 2015, Rabbi Yossi Grossbaum had a visit from 3 detectives in plain clothes but with guns and badges. Gaines had reached the city of Folsom, California, in an attempt to connect with any surviving relatives of the victim. Rabbi Grossbaum spread the word in Northern California and throughout the state. One family finally came forward after identifying the pendant in the newspapers. A DNA test was conducted on the remains and the alleged victim's daughter, and there was a match. The body was then finally identified as Patricia Carrigan, who would have been 35 years old at the time she lost her life. Originally from Virginia, Patricia had gone off on a solo road trip around California. She was driving a red Volkswagen bus. She had contacted her family to tell them she was on her way back home but never arrived. A month later, in October 1979, the family reported her missing. Her car was recovered from a dealership in Venice, California. Apparently someone had abandoned the car in the lot. Unfortunately, she was a missing persons case in Virginia, so no connection was made. Additionally, Patricia's DNA profile was uploaded into CODIS, the FBI's combined DNA index system, as well as the DNA from the perpetrator. But for many more years, there was no match. Her body was then handed over to the family for a proper burial, and she was laid to rest 26 years after her unfortunate demise. The perpetrator, however, remained free. Years later, a completely unrelated chain of events led to the arrest of the assailant. In 2023, the state of Washington provided funding to the Washington State Evidence Kit Initiative, a movement aimed at reopening rape evidence tests from the 70s onwards in an attempt to put perpetrators behind bars. The Spokane Police Department was one of the few that had officers assigned to work full-time on evidence kit cases. The SB had over 1,500 kits, and among those, over 250 kits got matches on the combined DNA index system. This led to a huge breakthrough. In 1994, a man had been accused of assaulting a homeless woman in Spokane. She reported the incident to police, got tested for verification of her accusation, and identified her assailant as a man named Harold Carpenter. He was booked on second-degree charges for forcing her against her will, but never prosecuted because the woman did not press charges. Harold Carpenter claimed they had consensual relations and he did not assault her, so it was just his word against hers. The evidence kit had been filed away but was now uploaded into Cody. The woman who logged the complaint had long since passed away, but the DNA on the system matched the DNA on the empty beer bottle from Patricia Carrigan's body. Their investigation placed Carpenter in the vicinity of the crime. On September 29, 1979, when he was arrested in Susanville, California, for driving under the influence, Carpenter had various misdemeanor arrests between 1990 and 1993. As well as being charged for another non-consensual incident regarding a woman in 1994. He was married and lived in Sandpoint, until his divorce in 1998, after she filed charges against him for domestic battery. There were charges against him from 1998 to 2018 in Bonner County for possession of illegal substances, reckless driving, more Deweys, and disturbing the peace. There was not much on his record in Washington except one Dewey in 2000. Carpenter was living on Spokane streets since 2016, rendered homeless. In 2018, he was arrested as a suspect in another non-consensual case in Spokane County, but it was not proven. He was quoted in an article published in the Inlander in 2020 regarding his homeless situation. You just tough it, you just go outside and you try to get out of the rain or the snow or whatever. In 2022, he was a suspect for a groping incident. But again, he was not arrested. He moved into Park Tower Apartments in downtown Spokane. Investigators of El Dorado County now had probable cause to arrest him, and the Spokane Police Department helped in locating Carpenter. So multi-state agencies working together. The 63-year-old was brought to justice when he was arrested on March 1st, 2023, for taking the life of Patricia Carrigan. Due to the statute of limitations, the Spokane case could not be pursued, and there were no charges filed against him in that particular case. He is currently held without bond in Spokane County Jail, awaiting extradition process for El Dorado so he can be prosecuted for his crimes. The decades-long cold case was finally cracked. Patricia Carrigan's assailant has been identified 44 years later, thanks to advances in forensic technology and agencies working together across states. The mystery of the 1979 Lake Tahoe Jane Doe was solved almost half a century later. In October of 1997, a duck hunter made a grim discovery: a dismembered female torso found in the Ryan Slow Stream just north of Eureka in Humboldt County, California. Despite the recovery of the remains, attempts to identify the victim proved futile. The unsettling case took a darker turn in January 1998, when additional body parts were located and retrieved on Clam Beach in California. The chilling narrative intensified on November 3rd, 1998, when Wayne Adam Ford walked into the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office main station with a macabre offering: a female body part carried in a plastic bag. Ford, an ex-Marine, disturbingly confessed to ending the lives of several women across the North State, including the unidentified victim found earlier. He admitted to a total of 4 victims. Investigators, delving into Ford's background as a long-haul trucker, conducted numerous interviews, extracting descriptive details about the victims. As part of the inquiry, Ford's residence was searched, revealing additional remains of the female recovered from the sloth. Despite concerted efforts, the attempts to identify this woman remained unsuccessful. Born on December 3rd, 1961 in Petaluma, California, Ford's early life was marked by his parents' divorce when he was 10. He chose to leave high school and join the US Marine Corps, where he served for 6 years until his honorable discharge in 1985. A life-altering incident occurred in November 1980 when Ford was struck by a drunk driver, causing a severe head injury and a coma that lasted for 9 days. According to family members, his personality underwent a drastic change starting in 1983. As psychological issues escalated, Ford faced challenges at work, leading to multiple hospitals, eventually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Ford's life took a dark turn, with encounters with the law, including allegations of assaulting and robbing a woman in 1986 in Garden Grove, California. In 1990, he was arrested for animal cruelty, serving a brief jail sentence in San Clemente, California. Between 1997 and 1998, he claimed the lives of at least 4 women while residing in a trailer park in Arata, California. The first victim, an unidentified woman, met her demise in October 1997. The second victim, 26-year-old Tina Renee Gibbs, tragically lost her life on May 16, 1998 near Las Vegas, Nevada, with her body discovered on June 2nd near Buttonwillow, California. The third victim, 25-year-old Lynette Dion White, met her end on September 25th, 1998 in Ontario, California, and her body was discarded near Lodi, California. The fourth victim, 29-year-old Patricia Ann Thames, fell victim in Hesperia, California, and her lifeless body was found on October 23, 1998 in an aqueduct in San Bernardino, California. In June of 2006, Ford was convicted of the murders in a San Bernardino County court and was sentenced to face execution. As of August 2006, he remains incarcerated at the San Quentin State Prison in California. Over the years, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office investigator persisted in their efforts to identify Ford's initial unnamed female victim. They routinely combed through missing person reports spanning the entire West Coast to gather leads. Leveraging DNA analysis, investigators successfully confirmed that the remains discovered on Clam Beach belonged to the unknown female. The DNA profile was entered into both the California Missing Persons DNA database and the National Unidentified Persons DNA Index, undergoing regular searches against profiles from missing persons and other human remains in the combined DNA index system. Despite exhaustive efforts, no matches were ever found. Eventually, the case was submitted to the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. In 2021, Sheriff William Hoonell of Humboldt County established a cold case unit tasking 2 investigators with the exclusive responsibility of re-examining unresolved cases for potential breakthroughs. Fast forward to December 2022, and a collaborative effort between the Sheriff's Office, the California Department of Justice, and Inc. was initiated to explore the application of advanced forensic DNA testing in identifying an unknown female or a close relative. The California Department of Justice supplied AIM with a DNA extract from the unidentified woman's remains, prompting AIM scientists to employ forensic-grade genome sequencing to construct a comprehensive DNA profile. Leveraging this profile and forensic genealogy techniques, a potential DNA match surfaced, pointing to a close relative of the victim. Investigator Ayers reached out to this relative, inquiring about any missing family members. The relative revealed that their family member, Carrie, had been missing since the mid-1990s. Subsequent efforts led investigators to Carrie's sister, Kathy, who confirmed that Carrie's last known contact with family occurred in 1997. Kathy willingly provided a DNA sample, which underwent comparison with the DNA extracted from the unknown female's remains. The result confirmed a genealogical match, officially establishing the identity of the remains as those of Carrie Ann Cummings, born in 1972. At the time of her demise, Carrie was 25 years old. Details emerged regarding Carrie's struggles with untreated mental illness during her last contact with family in 1997. She disclosed that she was couch surfing in the Eugene, Oregon area and, despite multiple offers from family members, adamantly refused to return home. Kathy praised Carrie's beauty, humour, intelligence, and artistic talent, noting her ability to bring joy through laughter. The tragic impact of mental illness unfolded over a mere 2 years, leading to Carrie's disappearance. Kathy informed investigators that when Carrie went missing, her parents attempted to report it in both Arizona and Oregon. Despite hiring a private investigator, legal constraints prevented the filing of a missing persons report at the time, leaving Carrie unregistered in national databases. Authorities then dismissed her case, deeming her an adult who had chosen her lifestyle, with no legal recourse unless she posed a threat. In the era before comprehensive missing person protocols, Kathy resorted to scouring online platforms, including the Nameless website, using details like Carrie's tattoo to find her. The Humboldt County Coroner's Division is collaborating with family members to facilitate Carrie's burial alongside other deceased relatives. Sheriff William Hansel expressed gratitude to the California Department of Justice, Dana Lab, and AM for their crucial contributions to solving the case. Although the identification cannot erase the pain, it is hoped that it brings closure to Carrie's family and the community. Sheriff Hansel commended the unwavering dedication of investigators pursuing resolution, expressing gratitude for their commitment. While suspicion remains on Wayne Adam Ford, investigators urge anyone with information to contact investigator Mike Fridley 700-7400-413-3024. On October 26, 1978, a report reached the Pershing County Sheriff's Office concerning the discovery of human remains in Pershing County, Nevada. The location was approximately 13 miles west of Imlay, near Scosser Road. Responding promptly, officers from the Pershing County Sheriff's Office found the human remains contained within a garment bag buried in a shallow grave. Among the evidentiary items collected at the scene were women's clothing found inside the garment bag, consisting of a dark green sweater with a white safety pin on the front, dark green trousers, and a long-sleeve pink sweater. The unidentified individual's remains were subsequently transported to Washoe Medical Center in nearby Reno, Nevada, where an autopsy was conducted. The medical examiner determined that the remains belonged to a Caucasian female aged approximately 40 to 50 at the time of her demise. Due to the condition of her remains, the circumstances surrounding her death remained unclear, although investigators suspected foul play. Despite extensive efforts, no identifying information was discovered on the victim's body during the initial investigation. In May of 1979, recognizing the need for additional resources, the Pershing County Sheriff's Office sought the investigative assistance of the Nevada Department of Public Safety Investigation Division. This collaboration sparked a thorough investigation aimed at identifying the woman, involving the submission of dental records for comparison and collaboration with the FBI to extract identifying information from the clothing articles. In a multifaceted approach, investigators obtained a mitochondrial DNA profile from the woman, and a facial reconstruction was created with the dual purpose of provoking recognition and advancing the identification process. The hope was that someone might come forward with information that could shed light on the mysterious circumstances surrounding this unidentified woman. The case was officially entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, where investigators diligently pursued various leads and examined numerous missing persons reports, but failed to uncover any significant breakthroughs in identifying the mysterious. Despite their persistent efforts, her identity remained elusive, leading to her designation as the 1978 Imlay Jane Doe. This enigma persisted for over 44 years until March 2022, when investigators, in collaboration with NamUs, sought the expertise of Othram to unravel the mystery. NamUs, a national clearinghouse dedicated to aiding the criminal justice community in resolving cases of missing, unidentified, and unclaimed persons throughout the United States and its territories, provided funding for advanced DNA testing and forensic genetic genealogy. The forensic evidence was sent to Othram's laboratory in the Woodlands, Texas, where Othram scientists employed forensic-grade genome sequencing to establish a comprehensive DNA profile for the unidentified woman. The genealogy team at Othram then utilised this profile to generate investigative leads, which were subsequently shared with law enforcement. David Mittelman, CEO at Othram, explained that their approach allows the identification of individuals, even if they are remotely related. While the discovered relative may not be someone present during holiday gatherings, they could be a genetic relative, possibly a third or fourth cousin. This breakthrough enabled investigators to ascertain that the unidentified woman was, in fact, 67-year-old Florence Charleston from Cleveland, Ohio. Detective Shane Coaster confirmed that the genealogy profile derived from the processed remains successfully identified a couple in Ohio. The Nevada State Police then located and tested the DNA of Florence's granddaughter, Donna Taylor, ultimately discovering a 100 familial match between Donna and the remains near Imlay, Nevada in March 2023. Initially, when the detective reached out to me, I thought it was a prank, Donna remarked. Subsequent investigations unveiled that Florence had relocated to Portland, Oregon in the early 1970s, losing contact with her family around 1978. Family members described Florence as a fun-loving person who was a joy to be around. Diane, Florence's niece, reminisced, "Every child should have an aunt like her." We used to share stories in our family for years about the wonderful times we had growing up with her. We all missed her when she moved to Portland and essentially disappeared shortly thereafter. Florence, born in 1911, enjoyed a happy marriage until her husband's passing. Donna Taylor, Florence's granddaughter, recalled after losing her husband, she seemed to become a bit more dependent on men. Donna was still a child when Florence moved from their hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, to an apartment on Southeast Milwaukee Avenue in Portland with her boyfriend. Donna revealed the man she relocated to Portland with contacted us, informing that they had travelled to Hawaii to explore purchasing a condo. Upon their return to the Portland airport, she unexpectedly fled from him. I genuinely believed she ended up homeless, losing her life on the streets, and that's how I coped with it. The last conversation she had with her grandmother was in 1977 over the phone when she was a high school junior, a year before Florence's body was discovered. Donna expressed, "Once everything is settled, I plan to bring her back to Cleveland for a proper burial. She's been in Imlay all this time, and I want to lay her to rest in the cemetery alongside her son, my father." The investigation into Florence's mysterious fate is ongoing, and anyone with information about the case is urged to contact the Nevada Department of Public Safety Investigation Division at 775-600-84-7-456. In 1976, 22-year-old Kyle Clinkscales resided in LaGrange, Georgia, and was deeply engrossed in his passion for sports. Pursuing his education at Auburn University in Alabama, Kyle was in the process of navigating his path in life and contemplating potential career choices. On January 27th of that year, after concluding his part-time work at a LaGrange bar, Kyle embarked on the approximately 45-minute journey to Auburn University, where he was a sophomore. Regrettably, Kyle never reached his destination, prompting his concerned parents to report him missing when attempts to reach him proved futile. Upon investigating Kyle's disappearance, no unusual signs were discovered at his apartment, discounting the possibility of him voluntarily leaving or relocating. Investigators were left grappling with the mystery of what transpired during his journey. In the ensuing weeks, the Troup County Sheriff's Office, alongside Kyle's determined parents John and Louise Clinkscales, conducted an exhaustive search. Lakes were drained, rewards were offered, and deputies combed through woodlands, desperately seeking any clue that could lead to Kyle. For the Clinkscales family, the search became an all-encompassing, fervent pursuit mirroring the countless other missing person cases nationwide. The heart-wrenching plea for information, the weariness of search efforts, and the bewildered community all underscored the unsettling reality that something so distressing could befall one of their own. The resilience displayed became a source of inspiration for many. Kyle Clinkscales held a deep affection for New Orleans, prompting his parents to place ads in the city, seeking assistance in locating their missing son. Similarly, his fondness for Hawaii, developed during a childhood summer vacation, led his parents to send letters to every police department in the state. Upon receiving tips about an individual matching Kyle's description, strong jaw, shaggy brown hair, thick eyebrows, they tirelessly travelled to the locations associated with those leads. 2 years after Kyle's disappearance, the Clinkscales family had disseminated almost 5,000 bumper stickers appealing for information. They transformed into advocates, not only for their own cause, but also for other families grappling with the absence of their loved ones, shedding light on less publicised cases. Recognising their efforts, the Clinkscales were invited to the White House in 1985 to meet President Ronald Reagan and discuss strategies to address the challenges surrounding missing and exploited children. In the familiar confines of their home, adorned with pictures of a smiling Kyle in a bow tie, the Clinkscales' unwavering commitment occasionally yielded to fatigue. During a 1978 interview, John Clinkscales expressed concern, speculating that perhaps his son, disenchanted with college and feeling like a financial burden, opted to vanish rather than communicate his struggles. Maybe, he pondered, he wanted to make it easier on us by disappearing instead of dropping out or sharing his feelings. Whenever Luz and John Clinkscales ventured out from their LaGrange, Georgia home in search of their long-lost son, they made it a ritual to leave a note behind. In the event their son returned during their absence, they wanted him to be aware of the significant changes that had occurred since his disappearance in 1976, expressing their enduring love. The Clinkscales would pen these notes ensuring that a spare car key lay on the dining room table for his convenience. In a proactive measure, both John and Louise Clinkscales provided their DNA samples to investigators, offering a potential means of identification if their son's remains were ever discovered. Regrettably, John Clinkscales passed away in 2007, leaving Louise to continue the poignant search. Her journey came to an end in January 2021, when she passed away at the age of 92. The breakthrough in the mystery occurred on December 7, 2021, in Cusseta, Alabama, approximately 30 miles southwest of LaGrange. A driver navigating a 2-lane road spotted the protruding hatchback of a rusted vehicle in a creek and promptly alerted the authorities. Subsequent investigation revealed a 1974 Ford Pinto emerging from the creek, containing human remains within its deteriorated frame. Approximately 50 skeletal fragments were discovered, encased in mud. The circumstances that led to the visibility of the car from the road, after all these years, remained unclear. In February of 2023, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation officially confirmed the identity of the remains as belonging to Kyle Clinkscales. The creek near Chambers County, Alabama, where the car was discovered, had never been searched initially, as it was deemed an unlikely route for Kyle to Auburn, though it could have served as an alternative path. Aaron Hackley, the coroner in Troup County, Georgia, mentioned that determining the precise cause of death might take investigators several months, given the challenges presented by the age of the remains. Upon receiving the news of the identification, Kyle's aunt Martha Morrison was contacted by investigators. She expressed a mixture of relief and regret, acknowledging that Kyle's parents, who had strong Christian beliefs and unwavering faith, were not alive to witness this closure. Martha reflected. They were resilient in their faith, believing that things would eventually work out, and they never lost hope upon the return of Kyle Clinkscale's remains to his family. The plan is to journey to Shadow Lawn Cemetery in LaGrange. There, amidst the tender soil between the graves of his mother and father, Kyle will find his final resting place embraced by a space designated for him years ago. In February 2021, a labourer stumbled upon human remains serendipitously. While working near an abandoned warehouse in a Perino, situated south of Vigo and close to the Portuguese border, the remains, discovered in a sealed well, had undergone a profound state of decomposition and exhibited saponification, a process in which bacteria, thriving in a damp and warm environment, transform body fat into a soap-like substance, rendering the body unidentifiable. Upon examination, investigators determined that the unidentified man had sustained a fatal blow to the head and other severe injuries throughout his body. However, the absence of flesh and personal effects in the well presented a perplexing challenge in establishing the individual's identity. Despite conducting DNA tests, no matches were found in police databases for any known individuals or missing persons. Faced with a stagnant investigation in 2022, the Guardia Civil Police Force sought assistance from Fernando Vietes, a forensic scientist affiliated with Galicia's Institute of Legal Medicine. Forensic facial reconstruction is the process of recreating a person's face based on skeletal remains, utilising a combination of anatomical science, anthropology, and artistic interpretation. Collaborating with artist Albacani and Dr. Vietes produced 6 different renditions of the man's face, featuring subtle variations in hair colour and varying degrees of facial hair. These photo-fit-style representations proved effective when, within a few weeks, a woman from Portugal stepped forward, recognising her long-lost brother, whom she had not seen in over 3 years. Subsequent DNA testing substantiated the woman's claim, conclusively identifying the unknown man as Carlos Alberto Vieira do Euro. Originally from Vido Castillo in Portugal, Carlos had been residing in Spain for 2 decades, operating a used car business in Vigo. Investigators from the Guardia Civil were able to establish the 37-year-old Carlos's disappearance date as October 13th, 2018, meticulously tracing his movements leading up to the time of his demise. The investigators have identified 5 suspects with varying degrees of involvement in a homicide believed to be linked to fraudulent activities perpetrated by Carlos in his dealings with used cars. 2 of the accused individuals have been placed in custody by the investigating judge in Perino, while the 3rd, believed to have played a role, has been released on bail. Dr. Vietes has gained recognition for his expertise in identifying bodies in advanced stages of decomposition. He has worked at Darwin Cemetery in the Falklands, where the International Committee of the Red Cross led an initiative to identify over 120 anonymous Argentine soldiers. Additionally, Dr. Vietes contributed to the identification of victims of the 2004 Madrid train bombings. Notably, he provided a visual representation of Manuel Blanco Romasanta, Spain's first recorded serial offender, who claimed a curse transformed him into a wolf and led him to take the lives of 13 people in the 19th century. As of now, there has been no public update on the status of the individuals suspected in the death of Carlos Alberto Vieira do Euro. On October 6, 1982, investigators concluded that an unknown man had been the victim of foul play. For 4 decades, the case remained unsolved until AM Labs, in a groundbreaking collaboration, employed advanced forensic genome sequencing. North America's inaugural private laboratory dedicated to deriving human identification from forensic and crime scene evidence has been successfully tackling cases of this nature across the continent. The California Department of Justice forwarded DNA extracted from the victim's bones to AM Labs. Employing a suitability analysis, assessed the quantity of viable DNA, leveraging their capability to scrutinise hundreds of thousands of DNA markers, facilitated the identification of more distant relatives, ultimately leading to the victim's direct family through genealogy. Subsequently, the FBI became involved, utilising fingerprinting to confirm the identity once a potential match had been identified. This collaborative effort brought resolution to a cold case that had stumped investigators for over 4 decades. Law enforcement successfully established a crucial connection, ultimately unveiling the identity of the long-standing John Doe case. In October 2023, the public learned that the previously unidentified human remains belonged to Rodney Allen Ramsey, a 28-year-old born on May 25, 1954, residing in Sacramento, California. Michael Vaughan, AM Lab's Director of Account Management, remarked, "What began as a case of unidentified human remains has evolved into an entirely new investigation. The impact on the community, detectives, and decades of family members is profound." While we celebrate this success, our focus now shifts to the next challenge. Notably, Rodney bore distinctive tattoos on his left forearm, featuring a red rose with 3 leaves and a skull with black braids, 3 red-tipped feathers protruding from the head, and red accents around the eye sockets. Lieutenant Karina Sacer, spokesperson for the Santa Cruz Police Department, emphasised that despite this breakthrough, investigators still have extensive work ahead and intend to reach out to Ramsey's family. Individuals possessing information related to this case are encouraged to contact the Santa Cruz Police Department's investigation unit at 800-31-425,000, 820 or the department's tip line at 831-425,995. On January 27, 1996, an unidentified female's body was discovered by a passerby in Beaumont, California. The finding occurred in a rural, hilly area situated in a ravine south of the eastbound Highway 60 near Gilman Springs Road. A couple driving through the vicinity flagged down a law enforcement officer and reported the presence of the body on the roadside. Upon investigation, authorities concluded that the victim's life had likely been taken a few hours before the discovery. The victim, of uncertain ethnicity, appeared to be Hispanic, American Indian, or possibly Asian. She was found lying on her back with a gunshot wound to her head, and there were signs of assault. The victim lacked any form of identification or a purse, but her clothing was clean and in good condition. At the time of the incident, no investigative leads were available. The woman's short tandem repeat profile was obtained and subsequently entered into the missing and unidentified person section in California. She appeared to be aged between 30 and 45, with brown hair and eyes. Standing at approximately 5'1" and weighing 130 lbs, the woman bore a surgical scar on her right abdomen. Authorities reached out to surrounding agencies in search of potential missing persons matching her description, and her case was registered on NamUs. Detectives created a composite sketch, leveraging local media to seek leads. Despite these efforts, the investigation hit a dead end and the case turned cold. Recently, the Riverside County Regional Cold Case Team collaborated with AM to employ advanced DNA testing and forensic genetic genealogy. Forensic DNA samples were sent to AM, where scientists utilised forensic-grade genome sequencing to construct a comprehensive genealogical profile, aiming to generate new leads in the case. The law enforcement investigators received the profile and utilised it for genetic genealogy research, employing databases like the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. Through the California Department of Justice Riverside Crime Lab's Missing and Unidentified Person System, they successfully identified the victim as Juana Rosa Zagal from the Los Angeles area. This breakthrough was officially announced on June 26, 2023, revealing that Juana was 41 years old when she lost her life. Expressing the profound impact of the tragedy, one of Juana's daughters remarked, "He dismantled my family. It wasn't just one life he took all of ours. It's incredibly challenging for me, but I desperately want to uncover the identity of the responsible party." Detectives remain hopeful that individuals in Juana's circle, including friends, neighbours, or colleagues, may possess valuable information to shed light on her disappearance. Those with any knowledge of Juana or additional details are urged to contact detectives at 951 955 2277.